What's up guys, Kevin here from the sportsgeek.com, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how I built my Fantasy Baseball World Championship Qualifier lineup for Monday, April 18th. You can see here it's $1,000 to enter, 45 people in this contest. First place is getting the ticket worth about $30,000 to the Fantasy Baseball World Championship. Top 5 get at least double their entry fee back. So top 5 is nice, but you're really going for that first place prize. And with 45 people, because of that, I'm going to be contrarian when I'm building my tournament lineups. When it's so front heavy like this. So I like to be contrarian most of the time anyways, but when I'm going after first out of 45 people, I'm gonna try to be a little extra contrarian, I guess you'd say. With that said, I did go with the chalk at pitching tonight. I've got Jose Fernandez and Noah Syndergaard, but I'm kind of hoping that a lot of people just pick one of the two. I'm guessing that most people will be on Syndergaard. So I'm hoping that Fernandez is a little less popular tonight. But we'll see how that works out. But what I did to differentiate myself was with the hitters. I tried to go really low-owned hitters here tonight. You can see on FantasyLabs, so I'm logged into FantasyLabs. I'm in the Bales 2016 model, and I'm in under batters, and I've got it sorted by rating. You can see here that the top 4 are actually all from Cincinnati. They've got the highest team total on the night. If you go to the lineups page, you can see it's down to 4.5. I think a minute ago it was 4.6. So that's interesting. That's good news for me, seeing that Cincinnati dropping. Everyone probably has their lineups already set. Doesn't mean much dropping by 0.1, but it does help. Makes you feel a little better. Fading Cincinnati completely. They're going to be the most popular. I would guess I would bet a lot of money on Cincinnati players being pretty popular, especially Joey Votto. A lot of people look at BVP, batter versus pitcher. You can see here that a lot of the Reds are raking against Lyles, especially Joey Votto, who's hit 2 home runs in 15 plate appearances, 11 at-bats against Lyles. So I think Cincinnati's going to be really popular. For that reason, I faded them completely in this contest. And if you drop down a little further here, you can see Colorado players are popular as well. So I'm guessing a lot of people might do a game stack with those two teams, or go pretty heavy Cincinnati, maybe throw in a couple Rockies in there. So I kind of faded that game completely here. And you can see I went with an Arizona stack, which is kind of interesting. It's definitely very contrarian. It's risky. But if you do go to the pitchers over here, so you can see here, Syndergaard, Fernandez, they're ranked the best. They're the most expensive pitchers. They've got the most pro trends. They're going to be chalky. Logged in here knowing that these two would probably be rated the highest, and they were for tonight's slate, but I found a way to fit them both in, which is pretty happy about. I think they're both going to have pretty good games. We'll see. Hopefully I don't jinx that, but that's how I went with those two pitchers. And then you can see here Jake Peavy. This is an interesting play. He had a good season last year. He's a good pitcher. But if you look at his 2 games this year so far, he's given up 10 and 11 hits, 6 and 4 earned runs, 5 and 3 strikeouts. So he's not pitching too well at all for San Francisco. And I'm just kind of making a small bet on him performing poorly again tonight. So he could just find his pitches again and have a good game at home. But I'm kind of betting against him tonight, and I'm going with the Arizona stack. So if you go over to the lineups here, scroll down to Arizona. Instead of going 1 through 5, I went a little cheaper, and I went 3 through 7 here. So I went with these 5 guys in a row. You can see it gets a little cheaper near the end here. 3 of these guys under 3K. That helped me fit in the 2 high-priced pitchers. And then from there, I just filled in the rest of the lineup, or the rest of the empty spots in the lineup. So Panic, I went to second base. I kind of messed around with a bunch of different combinations, or a couple different combinations. But Panic was pretty highly rated, and I liked him going against Archie Bradley tonight, hitting second. And then if you go down to third base, Eduardo Nunez. He's ranked 4th here in the rating, not too far behind Carpenter's at the top. And then we go down to Brandon Moss, outfield. And you can see here he's 57, not too far down from the top. So just using FantasyLab ratings to fill in the gaps. I found my pitchers with FantasyLabs, the 2 highest rated pitchers. And then I found the stack. I kind of just went through every team basically, kind of, let's see. Wait, I'll just leave this up here like that. So the contest just started at 7:05 right now. So basically, yeah, I went through all the different teams, kind of looked at some low price stacks. I wanted to fit in the top 2 pitchers. So I kind of tried to find a team that had low priced players that I liked for the night, going against a pitcher who's maybe struggling or a weaker pitcher. They are going against a pretty solid pitcher, but he's struggling to start the year. So I'm just kind of hoping that continues. And then the price on the Arizona hitters were really low, so that allowed me to fit in some other good players around them, with like Joe Panic at 3,500, Nunez at 35, and Moss at 32. So I didn't have to go too cheap outside of Arizona, so that was nice. So that's pretty much how I built this lineup. I just kind of did some research on some hitters, was checking out the prices. A lot of the Arizona prices had dropped from their average just going against PV, but PV's been struggling, so I'm hoping that a lot of people kind of avoid Arizona. I hope they're low owned, and I hope they can rake tonight against PV. So we'll see how that goes. Good luck with your contest tonight. And by the time you're watching this, you probably already know the results. So we'll see how it does. It could completely tank, or it could do well. We'll see. All right, guys. So it's now the next morning, and the results are in. I came 4th last night with this lineup. I didn't know if I was going to do a review video, but here I am. Finished 4th, won double my entry fee, which isn't bad. Obviously, I wanted that first place prize, but getting double your entry fee is all right, and I can do a couple more qualifiers now. So you can see here, I got 144 points. First place was 157, so I wasn't too far off. My chalky pitchers did well. They weren't the best scoring pitchers on the night, but they did pretty well, 28 and 29 points. And then you can see here, the Arizona-San Fran game was the highest scoring of the night, 9-7 Arizona. Unfortunately, I missed out on a couple of the players on Arizona who hit well. And usually when I do stacks, I like to stack 1 through 5 or maybe 2 through 6 hitters, which would have been last night, like Segura to Thomas or Tomas. But I ended up going 3 through 7, and kind of hurt me last night. You can see Lamb and Segura each had 3 hits, a couple RBIs. They had big nights. But I did get Castillo in here, and he did have a big night as well with 2 hits and 2 RBIs. So he put up 19 points for me, but I missed out here with Ahmed with 0 points, Moss with 0 points. But other than that, a pretty solid lineup. You can see the other guys I filled in here using FantasyLabs. Joe Panic was pretty highly rated for second base. He put up 14. Nunez was pretty highly rated. He put up 15 points. So overall, really satisfied with the lineup. And you can see everyone above me that placed above me. We were the 4 people who had an Arizona stack in this contest. I was actually surprised there was that many people. I was hoping there was only maybe me and someone else, or maybe 3 people or something like that. But yeah, 4 guys stacked Arizona. So it ended up being the right play on the night. And you can see these guys, a lot of these guys used, or I think all 3 of them used Jake Lamb, which was big, 26 points. So I wish I had him in my lineup, but just the way the pricing worked out, I messed around putting Jake Lamb. I messed around going 1 through 5 with Arizona hitters. Just didn't like the amount of money I had left over for the other positions. Jake Lamb was cheap at $3,000, but Segura was $3,900. So I didn't like spending that much money on him. I think he was the second highest after Goldschmidt. So I ended up going, the way it worked out, I ended up going 2 through 7. Ended up costing me a little bit of money here, but that's all right. Still happy with the results. And you can see on the night, if you go down here, I was right about my my predictions on the chalk. Let's just pick a random team here. So Joey Votto was 24% owned. He only put up 2 points. So a lot of the Cincinnati players, Paccio, whatever his name is, 40%, and he put up 5 points. So he got a late hit. I think it was in the 7th inning, I believe. So he was at 0 for a while. I was hoping that he finished at 0, being so high owned. Same with Cozart. He got a hit and scored a run in, I believe, the bottom of the 7th inning. He was 55% owned, but he only put up 5 points still, so that's okay. I was hoping for a 0 there when we were in the 7th and he was at 0. Jay Bruce, 5 points. He was only 17.8. I guess I expected him to be a bit higher, but I guess with a lot of people going with the high-priced pitchers, a lot of people had to go with the cheaper Cincinnati players. So a lot of the Cincinnati players were very chalky and they didn't do well at all. They only scored 1 run. So that was big. So it's not always going to work out like that when you fade the chalk. but sometimes it does, and that's when you can cash in on it like I did last night. Another one was Conforto. He was 46.7% owned. I didn't really understand that. I think a lot of people are looking at BVP. I know he had good numbers against the pitcher he was going up against, but I was really surprised on that. He only put up 2 points, so that was great for anyone who faded him. Who else? So the Colorado players, they were roughly 17.8% owned. I think a couple of the guys were around that percentage, and they ended up doing well late in the game. So it was 1-0 game until late, and they ended up getting their points late. So that was a little disappointing, fading that game completely, but at least they didn't go off. Like Arenado put up 12 points. He was 17.8. Ben Paulson was the one that really hurt. He was 20% owned. He got a late 3-run home run. He put up 20 points. But overall, the fade of the Cincinnati and Colorado chalk seemed to be a good play. And then going with the chalky pitchers ended up working out for me. There was ways you could construct your roster. Yeah, see, all the guys that finished top 4 all had the 2 same starting pitchers. But if you did, you could have went with like Lackey and had a better lineup, but doesn't look like anyone did in this tournament. Yeah, so overall, worked out. I usually decide to fade either some chalky hitters or some chalky pitchers. Last night was basically fading Cincinnati mostly, and kind of that game in general. And then finding a stack that I thought could go off that would be low owned, that was low priced, and then filling in the gaps, the empty spots on my roster with some high rated FantasyLabs players. So that was basically it, and it worked out well for me. The chalk didn't go off. My chalky pitchers did do well, and then my stack hit for the most part. If I did have a couple other Arizona players instead of, if I went with Lamb instead of Almond, went 2 through 6, would have worked out a little better, but it still worked out. I had a good night. I had this lineup, or I had a very similar lineup in another contest too, and that cashed as well. So pretty good night, and that's basically my recap, guys. So basically comes down to fading certain players that you think can have a bad night or an average night maybe, and then trying to find some low owned players who you think can have a really good night or a pretty solid night, and then filling in the gaps using FantasyLabs. Basically that's how I did it, and I used FantasyLabs to find these this stack. Basically I was looking at prices, I was looking at which players are bargains, which players have their prices have dropped, they've been hitting well, that kind of stuff, and came across Arizona. So that's how I created this lineup. And if you guys want more videos, make sure you're liking this on the YouTube video if it's posted on YouTube at FantasyLabs. All right, cheers guys.